Well, last time I I kind of poked around at what I think are two pretty controversial things, or I'll put it this way: there's a lot of disagreement about the two things from Psalm 51 uh, in verse 5. For I was born a sinner, yes, from the moment my mother conceived me. Born a sinner. I I'm tempted to try to explain it away, and I don't think that's fair or good or right. But as I said last time, we are born into sin. We are born with the proclivity, the propensity to sin. And having that as a quality of life at conception leads me to believe that's when life begins. Okay. Then in verse 6, regardless of where you stand on verse 5, but you desire honesty from the womb, teaching me wisdom even there. Now, the Hebrew, instead of from the womb, is in the inward parts. Okay. I think David is not, I don't think in any of verse 5 or 6, David is necessarily speaking literally, and yet it's pretty unsafe to eliminate a liberal or a literal interpretation until there's reason to eliminate it. Let's say that this is literal, but you desire honesty from the inward parts. It has been interpreted by some translators that would be the womb, but it doesn't necessarily have to be interpreted that way. You desire honesty from the inward parts has to do with my inner being, and that's where honesty would begin. It is in our inner person that our character is formed, and that's where God desires our honesty to spring from our inner being. If it is from the womb, keeping with this, idea of we were born into a world of sin, and we were, our life began at conception, and we were already a part of, at that point, a part of a world immersed in sin. As you can tell, I fall on the side that a baby is not born a sinner. A baby is born into the world of sin, but is not a sinner until they can choose to sin for themselves. Now this, I believe it was Augustine that wrote and then promoted the idea of what we today call original sin, that we do come into the world guilty of sin, and this was one of the primary sources for his belief and his teaching. I'm not as smart as Augustine, but I am gonna say, as I look at and interact with babies, I don't see it. Now, to me, one of the things that this idea I'm promoting of born into sin, but not born as a sinner, excuse me, it provides comfort, or could, maybe I would say should, provide comfort for those who have lost an infant to death. Will they see that baby in heaven? I think so. I think they are safely and fully in the arms of Jesus. Well, okay. You desire honesty from the womb, or in the inward parts, teaching me wisdom even there. Well, what's the point? Honesty comes, it originates within. And the idea that God is teaching me wisdom, even there, if you want to look at it as in the womb or from the womb, okay. I think God, I don't know. I've never known a baby, and I've known a lot of babies. I've never known a baby to come into the world wise. They are capable of incredible wisdom, but they don't come already incredibly wise. They are taught wisdom, and I believe, pardon me, God's design is He begins at the beginning to teach us wisdom. All right, let's move past the controversy to verse 7. Purify me from my sins, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. I grew up in the church singing from hymnals, and this whiter than snow, yes, whiter than snow. Now wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow, was one of the hymns. I go back to something I talked about previously when it comes to this word picture of purifying, cleansing, whitening, cleaning. In David's day, it was no small thing to take a white garment to the washer, and not the washing machine, but the washing persons, and get it back white. Getting stains out, well, it was difficult, challenging. Here, David says, purify me from my sins. You probably have a footnote in your Bible. The Hebrew there is purify me with the hyssop branch. Well, this is an Old Testament allusion to what happened at the tabernacle first, and actually even before that, when in Egypt, God instructed Moses to tell the children of Israel to use a hyssop branch and to paint their doorpost with the blood of the Passover lamb. Of course, at that point, it wasn't even called the Passover lamb, it was just called the lamb, so that death would pass over that household. And then when the tabernacle was constructed, the act of sprinkling blood on the altar was done generally with a hyssop branch. Why? Because it was part of the process of gaining forgiveness for sin within the law. And David says, purify me from my sins Purify me with the hyssop branch. It's not then, there's not a literal physical purification. It's a spiritual one. And I will be clean. One of the emotions that has such great, I even say incredible power, certainly in my life, and I think for most everybody I know, is the feeling when you truly feel forgiven. That you feel spiritually clean. There's an emotion associated with that. It's the emotion of, in my opinion, okay, it's the emotion of peace. Wash me, and I'll be clean. Purify me, and I'll be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. You're emotionally and spiritually, all of us are longing to have that sense of purity. We all know that we routinely, pretty much, there are people who will take exception with this, but I think we continually both fall short of God's design, and that's a sin, and we intentionally step outside of God's design, and that's a sin. But to have those sins forgiven, to feel spiritually and emotionally clean, white as snow. Not sure there is any feeling as good as that. Yeah, feeling loved, big deal. I want to feel, I must feel loved. And it is huge. To feel forgiven, well, if it's not first, then it's second or tied for first as far as in my life, emotionally. And then in verse 8, he says, "Oh, give me back my joy again." See, one of the things that unconfessed and unforgiven sin does is it keeps joy from happening. Joy and unforgiven sin, they don't coexist. Now, happiness can, because, you see it all around. Incredible sinners, but happy as they can be. But happiness is not the same thing as joy. Joy is a much deeper, fully abiding sensation. And David says, "Give me back my joy again." He had joy. He knew what it was like to transcend happiness to joy. And of course, you've experienced that. And given the choice between happiness and joy, I'm not going to exclude happiness. Happiness is not a sin, but it's kind of a shadow compared to joy, real, true joy. "Oh, give me back my joy again. You have broken me. Now let me rejoice." This is an interesting concept. You have broken me. Really? Well, in my reflection, I'm thinking, well, David, I think what happened is he exposed you and you felt very broken because of this. Yeah, I think that's probably what he's talking about. You've broken me. And see, sometimes that's how God works. He breaks us in order to fix us. All right, come back to this next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.